Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, as you know that we are carrying a special series on marketing management, and so far we have conducted number of lectures in this particular series, and I would like to tell you all that today also we are going to talk on a very important topic, and the topic is consumer and organization. We are going to find relationship between the consumer and the organization, and specifically we are going to study buyer's behavior, or we could say consumer's behavior. And for this we have again with us in our studios Dr. Subhash Kakkar. Dr. Kakkar is eminent academician, and with the help of this EduSet platform, he keeps on delivering lectures so that the best could be given to the students. So without wasting any time, I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Subhash Kakkar. Dr. Kakkar, welcome to the EduSet lecture.
Yeah, thank you, Gitika, and welcome viewers to this lecture. And this is part of the series on marketing management. Number of lectures have already been conducted on this particular subject, which is marketing management. And today we shall be devoting time to learn consumer buyer behavior. Here we are also considering consumer and organization as buyers, and we are going to study their buyer behavior in the market. We know that consumers behave differently in different situations, and they buy things depending upon the money they have. But is the money only criteria for deciding what to buy or what not to buy? We are going to study this thing. No, exactly, money is not the criteria. Two persons earning the same amount of money per month, their buying behavior is different. Their buying behavior, what they buy, from where they buy, why they buy, and how they dispose of the material or services is the behavior of the buyer. We are going to study what are the factors responsible for a particular behavior when he is a consumer, and also when group of consumers are there as organization. Whether it is education, whether it is any demographic factor which makes them buy something and which does not allow them to buy something, and how they behave to the different situations to which they are put in the market. And these conditions are like the price is high or price is low, quality is good or quality is bad, aesthetically the product is good or bad. What are these criteria to which the consumer gives importance? We are going to discuss all these in detail so that we reach the consumer psychology, so that we can provide the best services and the best product to satisfy him the most with our product or services. This is the main criteria. At every stage, marketing people try to satisfy the customer with their product and with their service, so that they win the customer, so that every time he buys the same product. For that, we want to understand the behavior of the consumer. So today's topic is consumer and organization, buyer behavior. The buying process, what is it? And buyer behavior, what is it? We are going to study the concepts and practices with respect to the buying process and buyer behavior. We will devote time to study this buying process. What exactly is the buying process, and how is the buyer behavior defined, what is the importance of buyer behavior in marketing function, how does it help us to improve the market share of the company. So, we are going to discuss today the concepts and the practices behind the buying process and the buyer behavior. Consumer behavior is the study of individuals, groups or organizations and the processes they use to. Here we are defining what is the importance of each and everything in the buying process. So, consumer behavior is a study of individuals, groups or organizations. So, here we are discussing three things. One is the individual, group and the organization, and the processes they use to select, secure, use and dispose of products, services, experiences or ideas to satisfy needs and the impacts that these processes have on the consumer and society. It blends elements from psychology, sociology, social anthropology, marketing and economics. It attempts to understand the decision-making processes of buyers both individually and in groups, such as how emotions affect buying behavior. So, we are going to study all these today. It studies the consumer behavior we are talking about, and this studies characteristics of individual consumers such as demographics and behavioral variables in an attempt to understand people's wants, needs, etc. It also tries to assess influences on the consumer from groups such as family, friends, supports, reference groups and society in general, and all these factors are responsible for consumers' behavior in a particular direction. And what are these influences? We have discussed these are friends, sports, reference groups and society in general. Now, customer behavior study is based on what? It is based on consumer buying behavior, with the customer playing the three distinct roles of user, because he uses the product or services, and the second role the customer plays is payer, because he gives the money to the person who is selling the product or services. Buyer, he is the person who is buying the product. All these three roles are being played by the consumer, and research has shown that consumer behavior is difficult to predict even for experts in the field. So, those people who are experts in the marketing field, it is difficult for them also to predict the behavior of consumers in the market, because they behave differently in different situations. Relationship marketing. Without discussing this particular aspect of marketing, I don't think we can discuss consumer behavior. And this relationship marketing is an influential asset for customer behavior analysis, as it has a keen interest in the rediscovery of the true meaning of marketing through the reaffirmation of the importance of the customer or buyer. So, now we can proceed to discuss further about consumer behavior and relationship marketing. a greater importance is also placed on consumer retention. Here we are giving importance to a different aspect of consumer, which is consumer retention. In customer relationship management, CRM, we are to take care of customer relationship throughout the life of the product. Personalization, customization, and one-to-one marketing also. Social functions can be categorized into social choice and welfare functions. This we are discussing about relationship marketing. What is the importance given to relationship in the marketing function? Special respect is given to relationship when we discuss customer relationship management. Black box model will define this term also, because this is also important when we discuss consumer behavior. The black box model shows the interaction of stimuli, consumer characteristics, decision process, and consumer responses. Here we are discussing 4 things when we are discussing black box model. And these are interaction of stimuli, consumer characteristics, decision process, and consumer responses. It can be distinguished between interpersonal stimuli and intrapersonal stimuli. What is the difference between the two? The first one, which is interpersonal stimuli, it is between people. And when we talk about intrapersonal stimuli, the meaning is it is within the people. So, between people and within people. The black box model is related to the black box theory of behaviorism, where the focus is not set on the processes inside a consumer, but the relation between the stimuli and the response of the consumer himself. So, this is the discussion on the black box. The marketing stimuli are planned and processed by the companies, whereas the environmental stimulus are given by social factors based on what? Economical, political, and cultural circumstances of a society. The buyer's black box contains the buyer characteristics and the decision processes, which determines the buyer's responses. Here we will discuss environmental factors and the buyer's black box. Under the environmental factors, marketing stimuli, environmental stimuli. When we discussed product, price, place, promotion, we consider economical, technological, political, cultural, and demographic, as well as natural. Under the buyer's black box, buyer's characteristics, attitudes, motivation, perception, personality, lifestyle, and knowledge. And decision process, problem recognition, information search, alternative evaluation, purchase decision, post-purchase behavior. Here we have discussed 6 particular things: decision process, problem recognition, and information search, alternative evaluation, purchase decisions, and the post-purchase behavior. Under the buyer's response, product choice, brand choice, dealer choice and timing, purchase amount also, because this is under the domain of buyer, and that is why we have taken all these factors under the buyer's response domain. The black box model considers the buyer's response as a result of a conscious, rational decision process in which it is assumed that the buyer has recognized the problem. However, in reality, many decisions are not made in awareness of a determined problem by the consumer. Now, we will discuss information search. Under information search, the buyer or the consumer tries to find out the information, and he starts the search for information, and this is called information search. Once the consumer has recognized a problem, say a problem has been recognized by the consumer, now he will start the research work regarding the information about his problem. So, once the consumer has recognized a problem, they search for information on products as well as on services that can solve that problem. Belch and Belch in 2007 explained that consumers undertake both an internal, which is part of the memory, and an external search. Sources of information include personal sources and experience, and commercial and public sources. Here we are discussing when the problem has been recognized, the consumer makes a search for information, and this information may be available in his memory. So, he takes his own help. Then external sources are there from which he can get information, and these sources of information can be his personal sources. Under personal sources, his own experience is there, and commercial sources and public sources. Public source and the commercial source is available outside his own domain, but as far as his own experience is concerned, his own memory is concerned, it is available with him itself. The relevant internal psychological process associated with information search is perception, which can be defined as the process by which an individual receives, selects, organizes, and interprets information to create a meaningful picture of the world. Now, the problem has been recognized by the consumer from his internal source as well as from his external source. He starts getting the information, and this is a psychological process associated with information search, and this can be defined as the process by which an individual receives, selects, organizes, and interprets information to create a meaningful structure of his problem in the world. Consumers' tendency to search for information on goods and services makes it possible for researchers to forecast the purchasing plans of consumers using brief description of the products of interest. After recognizing the problem, after making the search to get a solution to his problem, different consumers make different type of search, and they get different answers to their problem, and different alternatives are also available to them based on their own perception of the problem and certain factors, they decide to buy the product of their own choice so that they get rid of the problem. And this is the exact psychological process. The selective perception process can be divided into a number of parts. And what are these parts? The first one, selective exposure. Consumers select which promotional messages they will expose themselves to. One can select his own channel of information so that he is exposed to a particular channels for getting any information. So, he is selective. So, he is exposing himself to selective sources of information. Selective sources are channels of information. Then selective attention. When he looks at only selective channels, then he is at liberty to give attention to a particular feature of the channel. So, selective attention means consumers select which promotional messages they will pay attention to. And then is a selective comprehension. Consumer interpret messages in line with their beliefs, attitudes, motives and experiences. Here we are discussing 4 things which comprehend the consumer regarding the information, and these 4 things are beliefs, attitudes, motives and experiences. And then is selective retention. After getting information, we retain the information selectively. We don't retain the entire information in our mind or in our memory. Selective retention, consumers remember messages that are more meaningful or important to them. So, that is the meaning of selective retention. The implications of this process help to develop an effective promotional strategy and suggest which sources of information are more effective for the brand. Now, it is for the marketing people to analyze the consumer behavior. What sort of channel is liked by the consumer? What sort of information the consumer is retaining? What sort of meaning the information gives to the consumer? After getting information on all these factors, the marketing department takes an appropriate action to improve the market share and provide the product to satisfy the consumer. Now, we have evaluation of alternatives. Under this, at this time the consumer compares the brands and products that are in their evoked set. Here the consumer is now intelligent enough with the information, and he knows that these brands and products are available. Now, he compares the brands and the products. The evoked set refers to the number of alternatives that are considered by consumers during the problem solving process. During the problem solving process, he comes across different alternatives and which are to be evaluated. Sometimes also known as consideration, this set tends to be small relative to the total number of options available. Sometimes the options are great, sometimes the options are very small. But options are there, we have to evaluate them to reach the best possible solution which solves our problem. But how can the marketing organization increase the likelihood that their brand is part of the consumer's evoked set? On one side, we are discussing evoked set, which is prepared by the consumer himself, and we want that our brand and our product should be there in the evoked set. Consumers evaluate alternatives in terms of the functional and psychological benefits that they offer. There are so many factors which are considered by the consumer while deciding a particular brand and a product from his own evoked set, and these can be functional factor as well as psychological factor. The marketing organization needs to understand what benefits consumers are seeking and therefore which attributes are most important in terms of making a decision. On one side, we know that consumer is looking for a particular attribute in the product. Now, we have to see which attribute of our product satisfies him. It also needs to check other brands of the customer's consideration set to prepare the right plan for its own brand. First, we must know the attributes which the customer is looking for in the product demanded by him. Then we have to see thoroughly our own product, whether our product and its features satisfy the customer or not. Then we have to see the competition also, competitors' product, how far the competitors' products are satisfying the customer requirements, whether they are satisfying to a great or a higher extent, or our product is satisfying the customer to the higher extent. We have to analyze this. Purchase decision. Once the alternatives have been evaluated, the consumer is ready to make a purchase decision. Obvious, when the alternatives have been evaluated, now it's the time to take a decision on the product and the brand to be purchased by the customer. Sometimes purchase intention does not result in an actual purchase. Sometimes it so happens we see the intention of the consumer. Intentions are all there that the customer wants to buy the product, but actually he does not buy the product. The marketing organization must facilitate the consumer to act on their purchase intentions. So, the job of the marketing department comes into picture at this stage when intention is there in the consumer's mind to buy a product. Now it is to be actually converted to buying the product. Here the marketing department plays an important and vital role to convert the intention into actual buying of the product. The organization can use variety of techniques to achieve this. Here, the marketing department starts playing its own role. And the techniques being used by the marketing department are the provision of credit. The marketing department changes the terms of payment and offer credit. Payment terms may encourage purchase. If attractive payment terms are placed in front of the consumer may be attracted to buy the product. Then another form of technique which is used to attract the customer to convert his intention into buying a product is sales a premium or enter a competition may provide an incentive to buy now. So, relevant internal psychological process that is associated with purchase decision is integration. So, we are converting the intention into actual buying of the product, and which is a function of the marketing department. Intention is the behavior of the consumer, and actually buying of the product is also behavior of the consumer. Once the integration is achieved, the organization can influence the purchase decisions much more easily. So, we are converting intention into actual purchase and actual purchase into integration, so that finally the product is purchased by the consumer. There are 5 stages of consumer buying process. The problem recognition stage, meaning the identification of something a consumer needs. So, consumer need and want is recognized at this stage. The search for information, which means you search your knowledge bases or external knowledge sources for information on the product, basically on your own problem. And the possibility of alternative options, meaning whether there is another better or cheaper product available. And this is a third stage where we have different alternatives which satisfy our needs and wants. The choice to purchase the product, and then finally the actual purchase of the product. From the alternatives available, the consumer makes a choice which product he is going to buy, and finally the final process of purchasing takes place. And this shows the complete process that a consumer will most likely, whether recognizably or not, go through when they go to buy a product. And these are the 5 stages of buying a product. Post purchase evaluation, and this has been discussed by Angel, Collett and Blackwell. And in short, we say that EKB model was further developed by Rice in 1993, which suggested that there should be a feedback loop. Feedback should come back to the marketing department. Foxell in 2005 further suggests the importance of the post-purchase evaluation, and that it is key because of its influences on future purchase patterns. A feedback must come to the marketing department regarding the product purchased by a consumer. Based on the feedback, further decision regarding the product can be taken to satisfy the customer in a better possible way. And first it was discussed by EKB and then by Foxell. Customer strategy defined. A customer strategy is a carefully conceived plan that results in maximum customer responsiveness. One major dimension of this strategy is to achieve a better understanding of the customer's buying needs and motives. And this is the customer strategy defined. And strategic consultative selling model. Here we have strategic consultative model. Under this, we are discussing strategic step. In strategic step, we have develop a personal selling philosophy. Next is develop a relationship strategy. Third is develop a product strategy. And the last, develop a customer strategy. On the prescriptions part, adopt marketing concept. value personal selling, become a problem solver / partner, adopt win-win philosophy, project professional image, maintain high ethical standards and become a product expert, sell benefits, configure value added solutions, understand the buying process, understand buyer behavior, develop prospect base. And this way you can improve your market share. Instead of telling USPs, unique selling propositions, you start telling the consumer USP, which is unique selling promise as far as the product is concerned. Complex nature of consumer behavior. Individual customers perceive the product in their own terms and in their own ways. The customer is a person, not a statistic. He being a person, he has his own mind, he has his own heart, he has his own choice also. Companies that fully accept this basic truth are likely to adopt a one-to-one marketing strategy. One-to-one means satisfying all the customers individually. Now we'll discuss consumer versus organizational buyers. Consumer buyer behavior refers to the buying behavior of individuals and households who buy goods and services for personal consumption, whereas a business means organizational buyer behavior refers to the organizations that buy goods and services for use in the production of other products and services that are sold, rented or supplied to others. And this defines or explains the difference between consumer buyer behavior and organizational buyer behavior. In the part of organization, we buy certain services and products to make another product or provide another services which is consumed by the consumer, and our aim is to satisfy him the most. Differences now between consumer and organizational buyers. And now we will understand the difference between consumer buyer and organizational buyer. Features of consumer buyer we are going to discuss. Purchases for individual or household consumption. Individual one, purchases for individual or household consumption. Decisions usually made by individuals. Purchases often made based on brand reputation or personal recommendations with little or no product expertise. And purchases based primarily on emotional responses to product or promotions. Individual purchasers may make quick decisions. Products, consumer goods and services for individual use. This we had talked about consumer buyer. On the other hand, we have organizational buyers. And these buyers purchases made for some purpose other than personal consumption. Decisions frequently made by several people. Purchases made according to precise technical specifications based on product expertise, and purchases based on primarily rational criteria. Purchasers may engage in lengthy decision process also, and the products are often complex, classified based on how organizational customers use them, and this defines the difference between consumer buyers and organizational buyers. Types of organizational buying situations. There are different types to which the organizational buying process is exposed to. First is new task buy. Under this, salespeople rely on consultative selling skills. State rebuy. Salespeople constantly monitor satisfaction. And modified buying. Salespeople can provide service / anticipate changes. And the last one is systems selling. Overall model of organizational buying behavior. Here we have 4 things: external influences, internal influences, organizational culture, and the situations. Let's talk about first external influences. These are demographics, culture, government reference groups, and marketing activities. And situations, problem recognition, information search, alternative evaluation and selection, outlet selection, and purchase and post-purchase process, which we have already discussed. Under internal references and internal influences, organizational values, perception, learning, memory, motives, and emotions. And then we have organizational culture. From the situation, experience and acquisitions are passed on to external influences. And experience and acquisitions are also passed on to internal influences. And external influences and internal influences react each other, and they also act with organization culture. And organizational culture directly acts with needs and desires which come from the problem management process. And this is the overall model of organizational buying behavior. Organizational culture and organizational decisions are taken at what? Again, we are discussing 4 things which are related in a cyclic order. Organizational buying process, behavior and experiences that satisfy organizational culture. Next is again organizational culture. And finally, we have needs and attitudes influence the buying process. And this cycle keeps on repeating. Organizational values. Different values create different corporate cultures. IBM versus Apple. IBM is corporate, formal, and takes itself seriously. On the other hand, Apple is less formal, creative, and promotes a more open organizational style. So, values are different for different companies. Organizational demographics, organizational characteristics, size, activities and objectives, location, and the industry category. Organizational composition characteristics, gender, age, education, income distribution of employees, and how these are distributed among the organization. Reference groups like consumer behavior, organizational behavior, and purchasing decisions are influenced by reference groups. Reference groups also play a vital role. In industrial markets, the most powerful type of reference group is that of lead users, trade associations, and financial analysts or experts. Lead users are innovative organizations that derive a great deal of their success from leading change. As a result, their adoption of a new product, service, technology, or manufacturing process is watched and emulated by the majority. Internal factors and influencing organizational culture. The factors, internal factors which have an impact on the organizational culture, shared values and value conflicts, perception, motives and emotions. Organizational decisions tend to be less emotional than many consumer purchase decisions. Emotional activities and discussions are more possible in individual consumer rather than organizational consumer. Learning. Organizations learn through their experiences and perceptions. Purchase situation. Straight rebuy. Now, we will discuss the purchase situations to which the consumer or organization is exposed. Straight buy, low involvement decisions made by a single person in the organization when we discuss organizational buyer behavior. Modified rebuy. Under this, decision requires that buyer organization expends more effort and includes more people because of an important modification to the product, delivery, price or terms and conditions. And new task, another situation for purchase. First time buy, lots of individual influencing and involved with decision making process. Organizational decision process. Problem recognition, information search, alternative evaluation, purchase decision and product usage, and finally evaluation. This is the process used in the organizations as a decision process. Types of consumer buying situations. Habitual buying situations, variety seeking buying situations and complex buying situations. Achieving alignment now. The buying process is a systematic series of actions or a series of defined, repeatable steps intending to achieve a result. Salespeople need to be clear on how decisions are being made. Acquire specific information rather than make generalizations about the buyer's decision making process. Steps in the buying process. Let us discuss the buying process also. The first step is need awareness. Next is evaluation of solutions. Then is the resolution of problems, purchase and implementation. The buying process starts with the need awareness. The customer or the consumer must have the need for any product. Then evaluation of solutions, and need can be fulfilled by say 4 or 5 products. So, he is to see these alternatives and then he is to resolve. Rather, he is to decide on one particular product out of these 4 or 5 products which are going to satisfy his needs, and finally purchase that product and implement, means satisfy his needs. Steps in buying process. Need awareness. Salespeople can create value by determining problems and identifying solutions. Evaluation of solutions. Salespeople can create value by providing useful information to the consumer. And then resolution of problems. And finally purchase. Now we are discussing steps in the buying process. In the purchase, salespeople create value by arranging financial or supervising delivery and installation. In implementation, value creation involves timely delivery, superior installation, accurate invoicing or follow-up contacts by the salesperson. understanding buying processes. Transactional buyers, salespeople can eliminate any unnecessary costs or delays. Consultative buyers, salespeople focus attention on needs, awareness oblique help customers evaluate solution, and then strategic alliances buyers. Buyer resolution theory, why should I buy? And that defines the need. What should I buy? That defines the product, what the customer wants. Where should I buy? The source from where the consumer should buy the product or service. What is a fair price? That comes under the pricing part. When should I buy? This defines the time of buying a product or service. Customer strategy model, basic needs, group influences. So, formulation of customer perceptions and buying motives. Here we are discussing two things, emotional and or rational buying motives, and product and or patronage buying motives. Both these go to buying the decision, and both these help in deciding what to buy. Basic needs, Maslow has given basic needs, physiological, food, shelter, etc., security, free from danger, social, identification with social groups, friendship, and esteem, desire to feel worthy in eyes of others, self-actualization, need for mastery, self-fulfillment, and these are given by Maslow. Group influences, customer, roles, reference groups, social class, and culture and subculture. Group influences, under this, role, expectations associated with position. Reference groups, categories of people you see yourself belonging to. Social class, group with similar values, interests, lifestyles. Culture, influences of group with common language, environment, also subcultures. Now we discuss the discussion questions. Overgeneralizing based on demographics can be dangerous. Remember, prospects act as individuals, not stereotypes. Some predict the demise of demographics in marketing. How would this impact customer analysis? Perception, customer need information. Facts are negotiable. Perception is rock solid. Selective attention, we tend to screen out certain messages. Information overload. Buyers conditioned by social, cultural background and need to use various selective processes. And salesperson should encourage client to discuss perceptions of products. Buying motives. We have to discuss now buying motives. A buying motive is an aroused need, drive, or desire that stimulates behavior to satisfy the aroused need. It is helpful to discover the dominant buying motive, or simply DBM. D stands for dominant, B stands for buying, M stands for motive. Four basic motive types are emotional, rational, patronage, and product. Emotional and rational motives. Under this, we are discussing emotional separately and rational separately. Under emotional motives, acts due to passion or sentiment. So, passion and sentiment are important, and these are with respect to emotional motives. Emotional appeals common. If two products are identical, the salesperson who connects has the advantage. So, connect is also important. Now, we come to the rational part of the motives, and these act on reason or judgment, relatively free of emotion. Salespeople gather, interpret, and disseminate customer-specific information. What types of purchases would be dominated by emotional buying motives? What types of purchases would be dominated by rational buying motives? So, today viewers, we discussed the buyer's behavior. Buyers are individual customers, group of people, and the organizations. And their buying process as well as the behavior is different, and different aspects we have discussed thoroughly. We have discussed the buying process also. Once we understand the buying behavior of customer, group or organization, we can satisfy their needs, and we can also satisfy them to the highest extent. I hope with this lecture, viewers are now more educated on consumer behavior. Thank you so much.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us a very productive session, and we would be meeting again and would be discussing more on the marketing management tomorrow. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.